And now you're knocking at my door. Well, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Now in this episode we're going to be sort of doing a first impression of the 2020 Super Duke R. Now for those of you that have just joined the channel and aren't subscribed, I actually own this bike now. I've had it for a week or so, so we're just going to chat about what I've been doing and what I've thought about it, or what I think about it for the first week of ownership. And unfortunately the weather gods have just decided to dump its arse. So I've got out today just because I've got my first service next week, the 1,000-kilometer service, and I'm only up to just under 800, so I thought I'd get out for a little blast just to put a few miles on it before I take it in Tuesday of next week. Now I should make this clear before I continue, I absolutely love the pants of this bike. It's absolutely fantastic, and I'm so chuffed that I chopped in the Super Duke GT for this bike. This thing is an absolute monster of a machine, and I've not even been ragging it because I'm in the sort of braking period, but from sort of 2 to 5 grand you've got nearly all the beans to play with, and it doesn't even rev to, I think there's a limiter on it until the first service, maybe 7,000-ish, but I haven't even got up that far without even scaring myself. Now over the last few days I've been adding some bits and bobs to it. You've probably seen the video I produced on the SW crash bars that I installed. If you did miss that, or you're interested in giving that a look, then check that out in the top corner there. And in the meantime I've been doing some other bits and bobs. I've changed my brake and clutch levers for some Rexamo levers that I actually had on the GT. They fit on this bike, so they came across. I've installed my sat-nav, which I've got it on the bars here. Not ideal as yet, but I don't know where else to put it at the moment. I was hoping to get it above the clocks. There are people that have been making brackets, but I've also added a dash cover on the front of this to stop all the bugs and shite getting in there. So that's probably gone out the windy. So I'm just going to leave it on the bars for now. It's hardwired into the bike's electric, so it is only getting juice when the ignition is on, which is always good to have. The mirrors, I've changed the mirrors to my bar end mirrors, also came off the GT. I did have them underslung, but it was an absolute pain in the arse. I didn't like it at all. Looks very cool, but when you're riding along and you're checking your mirrors, especially in town, you're having to do a load of this shite, and wasn't getting on with that, so they've gone back overslung. Naturally I've got my SW Pro tank bags attached to the bike, and I've been testing them out as well. A lot of those fit this bike, or pretty much all of them do. Again, if you want to check out that video, there's another card up in the top corner where you can give that a bit of a mooch. I'm still waiting on my exhaust, which should be coming next week. Graphics kit also coming. I'm not sure if that's going to make it next week or not, we shall see. And the Evotech tail tidy is coming, which I'm going to be making videos on all three of those things: the exhaust, the Evotech tail tidy, and the graphics install. There's going to be videos of them. I haven't filmed adding mirrors and whatnot because that's pretty mundane, and it's a 2-minute job, so I've left that for now. But there is some content to come in the garage. You seem to be enjoying the garage content, which is a good sign. Now last week I did go out, last weekend I went out for a long run on this bike. I took it out for the whole day, 12 hours I was out, and with breaks I was probably 10 hours in the saddle. So comfort wise I had no issues whatsoever. Slightly towards the end of the day I had a bit of knee ache, but I'd get that on any bike if I was riding it all day, so it's definitely not, it's not uncomfortable. So touring on this is going to be a breeze, and I've been farting around with my SW luggage on this bike, so I can still get a lot of the luggage on the rear seat, so I'm still going to be touring on this thing. Now the one thing that has impressed me the most, or one of the biggest things that's impressed me, is the fueling on this bike. It's absolutely fantastic. Now down in lower gears on the GT, if I was in third gear now, 50 k's an hour, it may start to shake its head slightly. It gets a bit of a monk on, and it doesn't like it. But this bike, you can be in a higher gear, probably 1 gear higher, and you can ride it. It's so well behaved, it's so well mannered. Down lower in the rev range, you don't have to be ringing this thing's neck to enjoy the bike. which is obviously a bonus, because when you do wring its neck, it's absolutely fantastic. But it's bikes become harder to live with if you can't live with them when you're not on it, you know, if that makes sense at all. So you can ride this bike leisurely if you wanted to, and still have loads of fun with it. First time out in the rain or with wet roads on these Bridgestone T22s. Now these are incredibly sticky tyres in the dry. As I said, first time out on a wet road with these, so no issues as yet. Over the last sort of few rides I've been trying to get to grips with the new dash. It's something I'm not used to at all brand new to me, but once you've got your head around it, it's all pretty good. Now it's the same sort of design as on most of the TFT displays on KTM. You have to go into the menu structure and into all different menus and select your riding modes, ABS traction control and all that sort of business, your trip datas. You have to scroll through everything, which can be a bit of a pain, but you do get used to it. But that's typical KTM. But what is good on this bike is you've got the C1 and C2 button on this side, which is your custom button. So with a flick of the C1, I'm straight into my riding modes, and I can then change my riding mode on the fly much quicker. And the same with T2. I've put in there the traction control on or off, which I will probably change later down the road, because this bike doesn't come with heated grips as standard. I am going to be getting them towards the winter, and I would probably add heated grips onto one of the custom buttons just to make life a little bit easier and a little bit quicker. I'm really loving the new switch gear as well on this bike. Very easy to use, and illuminated as well, which is a nice touch. Now this bike doesn't have semi-active suspension like on the GT, but how it's set up now, the suspension and how it rides, the handling on this bike is absolutely incredible. It steers so much quicker than the GT. I mean, that was a bit of a lump with the big tank. And it just shoots out of the corners when you're on the beans with this bike. Absolutely just propels you out of the turn. And I mentioned it on my last video, but the quick shifter and down blipper on this bike is absolutely amazing. So much quicker than the GT. As I said before, on the GT I could probably do, if I was on the beans, I could pretty much change gear as fast as the quick shifter was changing gear, which wasn't brilliant, but still nice to have because you're not using the clutch. But this thing is butter smooth. Same with the blipper. Just stomp on that thing and the gears just fly in. Now that I've covered a good few miles on this bike, I haven't actually found anything that I don't like, which is pretty rare for a motorbike. There's always something that you find that that niggles you a bit, pisses you off, you don't like it as much, could be better than it is, but I really haven't found anything as yet. Does that ever happen? Is there a such thing as the perfect bike? Now, although this bike is pretty intimidating with its raw power, it is actually pretty easy to ride. And we're in sports mode now. I'm pretty much always in sports mode. I did the same on my last bike. I never really changed the riding modes unless it really sort of lashed it down and I put it into to rain mode. But generally, I always ride in sports mode. Now, the throttle mapping again is so much better. It's not snatchy, although the power is immediately there when you give it a little twist, a little squit. It's incredibly smooth and very easy to be doing illegal speeds within a blink of an eye, which is a bit of a bummer because look at the size of that speedo. That's going to be an editing nightmare. Now, KTM has always been a bit of a Marmite bike with regards to its looks, but I absolutely love how mean this thing looks. Now, it is an acquired taste. A lot of people do not like the look of KTM, but I have always been a fan. I was never really too keen on all the orange, but that is growing on me. And can you ever have too much orange now? I don't know. You be the judge. Bit of a shame it lashed it down.
I've never felt like this. What are you doing to me?
I'm liking now not having a screen, because it means I can fart around with the camera angles and get it a bit further away from me, so I can get a bit more in the shot. Still a bit wet, bagger. I find this bike slightly less vibey as well than my GT. My mirrors are pretty clear, although you do get a bit of movement in them. You can still see perfectly well out of them, so I'm happy with that, because on the GT, especially the left one, sometimes it was fairly unusable.
Is the reason I can't spend one more day without you.
I'd hate to think what this bike's like when you give it full throttle. I bet you probably can't even hang on to it. I mean, I'm obviously still running in, but out of the bends, I'm only giving it a little squit, and it just rockets you out of the corner. Without a doubt, an absolute weapon. Oh my god, look at the sky up there. Not good. Now, although the channel has been going fairly well this last year, it's really sort of had a kick in the pants, and a lot of you have come on board. Now, I'm hoping that this bike is going to add a bit more attraction to the channel. Well, the GT wasn't a shite bike, but I'm hoping that this one's just going to give me a slight edge. Well, there you go, just a few pointers there of how I've been getting on with the bike for the first week of ownership. Now, there are obviously going to be a lot more videos to come, so if you are new to the channel here, then make sure you subscribe and click that bell icon next to the subscribe button to make sure you are notified every time I upload a video. I do all kinds of videos on this channel, from garage reviews, product reviews, track days, touring videos. We've got it covered on this channel, and I produce a video at least one every week. I'm going to be making my way home shortly, and hopefully as of next week there's going to be some more kit arriving in the post, so I can get this bike made my own and looking pretty slick and sexy. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you dance all over that like button and smash it. It really does help the channel grow. So that is it for this episode, and I will see you in the next one. Take it easy.